In this video, we'll be looking at Chapter 2, percents. So we're diving into percents and seeing how percents work. A lot of this chapter will be done through a project. So the notes will kind of help to supplement the project and help you as you work through the project. So our central question today will be, how do I convert between percents, decimals, and fractions? So what we'll need to look at is the definition of a percent. And a percent simply means parts per hundred. So it's kind of like a ratio where a ratio or a fraction whose denominator is 100. So if we want to write a percent as a decimal, move the decimal, two places to the left. So to move the decimal two places to the left. So a good example would be if I had 25%, well, there's no decimal. Well, I can think of there being a hidden decimal. So we would say it's 25%. Here's my hidden decimal. And then I move it to the left two places. And now I get that is equal to 0.25. So we move that decimal, sometimes hidden, two places to the left. And to write a percent as a fraction, write the percent over 100. So if I had 33%, I would write it as 33 over 100. Now, here's a tricky thing. What if I have a decimal and my percent? So say I had 27.3%. Well, to do this, I would write it over 100. I'd have 27.3 over 100. But I don't want to have a decimal in my fraction. So what happens is I move this over 1, and that adds a 0. When I move this over, I add a 0. So I really get that that is equal to 273 over 1,000. So you start by writing it over 100, then you move that decimal, which puts a 0, adds a 0 to our 100, and then we have 273 over 1,000. So let's write some of these as following as the following percents as decimals and fractions. So when we're writing them as decimals, we'll write in our hidden percent, or our hidden decimal, I mean. We'll write in that hidden decimal. Then we'll move it to the left 2 times, and we'll place it right there, and that will equal 0.25. So there it is written as a decimal. And then if we want to write it as a fraction, we'll go 25 over 100. But can I simplify this fraction? We can, and both are divisible by 25. So I can say 1 over 4. 25 divided by 25 is 1, and 100 divided by 25 is 4. So let's try this one. Now we're going to move our decimal 2 places, right in the hidden decimal, and then we'll move it 2 places. But when I move it 2 places, I don't have enough space here. So let's try it like this. Let's rewrite this. But when I move this hidden decimal 2 places, I have a blank space. There it goes there, and then I have this blank space right here. Right here is this blank space. What am I going to write in that blank space to fill the void? Well, we'll write a 0. So now what I found is that my decimal is really equal to 0.07. So when we move that over to the left 2 times, we have to fill in that blank space with a 0. And then if we want to write it as a fraction, we'd simply write 7% over 100. 7 parts per 100. Number 3, we'll take that hidden decimal, move it over twice, and we'll get equals 0.52. Or we could write it as a fraction when we have 52 over 100. We can divide both of these by 4, divide top and bottom by 4, and we'll get 13 over 25. So whenever you write it as a fraction, make sure you simplify it. 7 over 100 was already simplified. We couldn't reduce it anymore, but 52 over 100 can be simplified by dividing both the top and bottom by 4. Okay, let's look at a couple more examples. So we'll take our decimal, we're going to move it twice. So we go 1, 2. Well, now if my decimal is right there, this is really equal to 1.07. And then to write it as a fraction, we'll take that 107 and put it over 100. Let's try number 5. I'm going to need some more space. So I'm going to rewrite the 4%. And when I move my decimal, I have my decimal, and then I move it twice. That leaves that blank space. And what will I put in that blank space? We'll put a 0. So we end up with 0.04. Then we can write it as a fraction. 4 over 100, dividing top and bottom by 4, and we get 1 over 25. Let's do one more and then we'll be done. We'll be done converting percents to decimals. So I'm going to take this decimal and we'll move it over 2 places. So when I do that, I end up with 0.927. Now I'm going to write it as a fraction, where we have 92.7 over 100. And I don't want my decimal in my fraction, so what am I going to do? I'm going to take that decimal, move it to the right so it's no longer there, and every time I move it to the right, I add a 0. So I'm moving it to the right once. We'll move this to the right once. There's where my decimal is going to be, and I'm going to write in that extra 0. So we end up with 927 over 1,000. And that's how we can convert percents into decimals and fractions. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.